Good evening, everybody. It's a safe space, I think, for me to speak in a room full of journalists who will understand and not pick my word out to chart me with sedition or war against nation. But to begin with, without getting into thank you so much to National Press Club, to Jen, to Bill, for this honor. Like Jen said, the day they called me to announce that I am the recipient of the Aubuchon honor this year, I was in hiding because one of my colleagues, a journalist, a friend of mine, who's a co-accused with me in a case, was behind bars for a tweet he wrote 4 years ago. Ironic, isn't it, that people who preside over genocides are feted by the world, but those who speak truth to power have been asked to stay low profile. That's the sign of the times we live in. To begin with, it's a huge honor for me, and I would like to thank the Washington Post for having my back at a time when journalists in India and top editors in India, where I worked, where I held top positions, pretended that I did not exist, post-2014 when Mr. Modi became the Prime Minister of India. So thank you to the Washington Post for having my back through my toughest times. I would like to dedicate this award to a person who is not in our midst. Her name is Shireen Abu Akleh, a journalist who was killed. Shireen didn't have to die. She didn't have to be murdered. She should have been right here with us. In her life and her death, Shireen exposed the hypocrisy and dual standards of the world on human rights. And that's the truth we all need to accept and understand, and more than ever before right now. And every time I'm in the US, people talk about India. When I tell them I'm from India, they say, oh, you're from the land of Ayurveda, meditation, yoga. Yes, it's true. Snake charmers, yes. I also belong to a country of 1.3 billion people, the world's largest democracy, with 220 million Muslim population who are now at the cusp of a genocide, right? I meet officials here in State Department and top officials, high-ranking officials in the US, and they say, Rana, what's happening? And I tell them, you know what's happening better than I do, right? And then I'm told, we know what's happening in India, but bilateral relationship vis-a-vis China and Russia, human rights be damned, right? Journalists be damned. And so ironic, 2 weeks ago, the US State Department was questioned about the immunity being given to MBS when he was traveling, and they cited the example of Narendra Modi, that even he was given a similar immunity. So they did my job in a way. By comparing MBS with Narendra Modi, that's exactly what I've been doing. Right? Trying to tell the world that the man who you put on the cover of The Economist and Time is a man who has blood on his hands. He has. In 2002, 1,000 Muslims were massacred in a span of 2 days when Mr. Modi was the chief minister of Gujarat. And we never even thought it as a joke that this man will become the prime minister. So much so the United States would not allow him entry into the US. And now you look at him. He has just taken over the presidency of G20. For this very speech, my country will tell me that I'm unpatriotic. I believe that I love India more than I love any other country in the world. I love my country, which is why I'm here risking everything to speak, because this could potentially be my last trip out of India. On the 13th, in a week from now, I will know my fate. I know if a non-bailable warrant will be issued against me. I don't know if I'm going to be arrested on arrival. As soon as I got here, a charge sheet was filed against me, which means I cannot leave India after this. I'm going to use this opportunity to tell you the story of India in a gist. I mean, it's a big story. In a gist. So when I leave, I know that some of you will speak about this story that the world needs to hear urgently. It's a story not just about the persecution of Muslim minorities. It's the story of India, the world's largest democracy, sliding into a state of fascism. India's Home Minister, Amit Shah, was a man, unfortunately and fortunately, I put behind bars in 2010 with my investigation when I published It's Called Records. I was about 25. And then I went undercover with 8 cameras on my body, posing as a Hindu nationalist girl for American Film Institute Conservatory. I went undercover and I met all the high-ranking officials in the Modi government, including Mr. Modi himself. And that investigation was killed. After meeting almost every publisher and editor in India who said, Rana, this is path-breaking. This is like the Watergate scandal. And I said, okay, you should publish it, right? We could, but things are tough. And I understand that, right? We don't have an independent press in India anymore. The world's largest democracy, the Prime Minister of India, has not taken a single press conference in the last 8 years. The Home Minister of India, the most powerful man, recently said that the 2002 genocide of Muslims, Mr. Modi taught the anti-nationals a lesson. Shouldn't the world be outraged? What will it take for the world to be outraged is what I keep wondering all the time when I come to the US, when I travel the world. What will it take for the world to understand that we are looking at the world's largest democracy, the land of Gandhi, right? But at this point of time, his assassin is being worshipped. Gandhi's assassin, people want to build a bust of him. We have a prime minister who routinely dog whistles against Muslims. You're all eating beef here, right? A beef steak. You could be killed for eating beef in India, especially if you're a Muslim. The number of Muslims who have been lynched in the last 8 years of Mr. Modi's government for just allegedly consuming beef. And that's just one of the things that has been thrown at the India's Muslim minority. Why am I attacked so much? Because unfortunately and fortunately, I also happen to be a Muslim and a woman. How dare I speak? How dare I speak in a country which does not consider me an equal? How dare I speak in a country where I'm supposed to be a second-class citizen of the country? So I'm here in the United States receiving this award, trying to feel less alone at a time when I do feel very lonely. This year, when the government filed money laundering charges against me, the Indian media just had me as the story, when my entire life and my entire family was made a free-for-all. There were television cameras parked exactly right opposite my house saying, we are getting first visuals of Rana Ayyub's house. I don't have a private life. When I go for a walk, I feel, when my neighbors look at me, I feel like, are they judging me? And I feel that all the time. Both my brothers have lost the job because of the call that I have taken to be a journalist. Both my brothers, who are publishers, are no longer in office because they got to know that they're my siblings. And that's just giving you a gist of what's happening back with me in India right now. When the ministers of the Modi government have shared videos of my image morphed on a porn video, circulated all over the country in screenshots, my phone number, my address doxed on social media, people sending me screenshots. The spokesperson of Mr. Modi's party put out a tweet saying Rana's father soliciting prostitutes sitting in Germany when my father has never left the country was dementia. That's like a very tiny window into what I face daily. When I published Gujarat Files, which is a tell-all book of the undercover operation, my colleague Gauri Lankesh wanted to translate my book in regional language. She said, Rana, let's translate this. Let's get this book out. And I said, are you sure? And she said, yes. And I was getting a lot of hate from the Indian government at that point of time. And she called me and she said, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. She said, babe, these are nincompoops. These are paper tigers. Don't bother. The next day, she was shot dead outside her house. Right? You don't know these stories, and those killers are still out. This is just a nutshell. I can go on and on about India, but I feel that I'm sitting in a room full of editors, and I'm sure you will do your due diligence to get the stories of India out. I really believe, and I really have faith in you. The last 2 months have been exhausting, and I'm actually on the verge of losing faith on what the world could do about India. But we are here journalists. We are here supposed to be a nuisance, like I believe. I'm a nuisance for a lot of people. When I was coming here to give my speech, my mom said, try to have one filter. Try not to say everything that comes to your mouth. That's who I am, unfortunately, and that's why I felt like I shouldn't be doing a lot of official meetings. But thank you for having me here. Thank you for letting me pour my heart out. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, sir, on behalf of my party, the All India Trinamool Congress, I rise to speak on the additional demand for grants 22-23. I begin by quoting the author Jonathan Swift. As the vilest writer has his readers, so the greatest liar has his believers. And it often happens that if a lie be believed for only 1 hour, it has done its work. Falsehood flies and truth comes limping after it. This government has us believe every February that this country's economy is going great guns. We are the fastest growing, most efficient global player. Everyone is getting employment. We're getting gas cylinders. We're getting electricity. We're getting pakka houses. This falsehood flies for about 8 to 10 months, and then the truth comes limping after it. And now we are in December, And the government says it needs another 3.26 lakh crores of additional funds over and above the budget estimate. The government and the ruling party coined the term pappu. You use it to denigrate, to signify extreme incompetence. Let me use the next few minutes to point out what the data, the statistics tell us as to who the actual pappu really is. NSO numbers were out yesterday. Industrial output has shrunk by 4% in October to a 26-month low. The manufacturing sector contracted 5.6%. Manufacturing is still the biggest generator of jobs. 17 of the industry sectors that make up the index of industrial production have recorded negative growth rates. Forex reserves have fallen by $72 billion in under a year. The Honorable Finance Minister yesterday during question hour mentioned how apparently 50% of FII inflows into emerging markets are coming into India. Wonderful. But her colleague, the Minister of State for External Affairs, just last Friday, in response to a question in this very House, stated that almost 2 lakh people, 1,83,741 people, renounced their Indian citizenship in the first 10 months of 2022. This exodus in 2022 takes the total number of Indians renouncing Indian citizenship under this government in the past 9 years since 2014 to over 12.5 lakh people. This year has already seen more people giving up Indian citizenship than any single given year. High net worth individuals are willing to pay up to $1 million to get citizenship of Portugal, of St. Kitts, of Greece. Is this the sign of a healthy economic environment? Of a healthy tax environment? Who's the pappu now? There is an atmosphere of terror in this country with the sword of the Enforcement Directorate hanging over businessmen and high net worth individuals. The ruling party buys lawmakers for hundreds of crores, and yet members of the opposition represent 95% of lawmakers under investigation by the Enforcement Directorate. But forget politicians. They're tough. They can fend for themselves. Businessmen and high net worth individuals are soft targets. In the monsoon session, in response to a query from my honourable colleague from the JDU, Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Singh, the Finance Ministry informed this House that in the past 17 years, the ED has opened 5,422 investigations under the PMLA, but has convicted only 23 people. That is a conviction rate of a pathetic 0.5%. Since 2011, the ED has launched 1,600 investigations, 1,800 raids, and convicted only 10 people. In the supplementary demand for grants, I see that the government is asking for an additional 2,900 crores to buy land and ready-built accommodation, office accommodation for the Enforcement Directorate. The taxpayers, you and I, are paying for the ED's operations, for their prosecutions, for their investigations, for their foreign junkets. So do Parliament and public representatives have no right to ask this na khaunga, na khane dunga sarkar, who's presiding over the ED, why there is such a pathetic conviction rate of 0.5%? Is the ED's job only to harass people, or is it to actually track down and catch the perpetrators of financial crimes? What is this level of incompetence? Who's the pappu now?